They were
planes started having regular patterns, and they all kind of dispersed from their regular landing patterns, and then
a mass casualty response, as it were, across the Potomac.
Did anyone just pick up on that? They just cut that interview off when he started talking about white orbs.
You're watching The Citizen Report, real, in-depth American.
Welcome to The Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon, and thank you for joining me today. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. If you joined me last night, I brought you the initial reports as things were beginning to emerge regarding a plane crash in Washington, D.C. Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty still in play here, and probably will be for some time, but there's some pertinent pieces of information that I felt that sort of constituted enough, development, we'll say, to, do an update to last night's report. Now, they are, as I'm speaking right now, they're still in active search and rescue. Really, it's just, I guess, the search part more than anything, because it is now being reported that some 67 people are presumed to be dead. As of now, there is no confirmed survivor of this incident. And in the off chance you don't know what happened, basically what happened was that last night there was a collision between PSA American Eagle Airlines 5342 and a Sikorsky VH-60M Black Hawk helicopter, apparently being operated by the U.S. Army. Their flight, basically, the helicopter collided into the airplane. And just to kind of go over some basic information, I will get to that in a moment. But let me go first to a Truth Social post from President Donald Trump. This came out last night, and I think it's important to look at this because I think it's quite telling in the early onset of what happened here that Trump went on ahead and said something. Now, Trump, he's well known to not hold many punches verbally or in writing, but I still think that given how he said this, I think it's important to take note of. So let me go to that. My apologies, folks. I'm trying to get this going here. It is live television after all. But in any case, there we go. My apologies for that. There we are. So this was what Trump said. Let me try to take it in full. Also, if I can, bear with me a few seconds. It will be there shortly in full. There we go. So this is what Trump had to say. Quoting here, "The airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It was a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good." Yeah. Now the flight path, and I'm only saying this, I'm not discounting what he said. I'm just trying to make sure that whatever conclusion is reached is purely objective. Now I'm citing Wikipedia, which I don't like to cite very often as authoritative, but this gives you just a kind of a sense in a visual way with respect to how the sort of the trajectory both were on, basically, if you want to call it that. This was the sort of the line you see kind of coming from the lower right of the image. That is the approximated flight path of PSA Airlines 5342. The red line is kind of the general pointer for how the helicopter approached. He was basically coming from due north at this point, pretty much. The airplane was making a final turn to land on runway 33, which is at DCA, had they made it there. So that is that is kind of where the angle is. It's not I said last night it was a 90-degree angle where the helicopter struck the airplane at. But it's not quite 90 degrees, but you know, it's close enough, right? It's basically a side hit, and you know, both went down into the water. It's my understanding that the aircraft, the CRJ Air American Eagle plane, is in 3 parts in the water. So that I'm citing Fox 5 and DC on that tidbit of information with respect to it being in 3 pieces, not 2 for the fuselage. Now, I do have some information. This is YouTube. I am utilizing YouTube, by the way, for the time being for live broadcasts, but just understand that because of that, I'm having to kind of tone my, we'll call it certain code words, you might call it, because YouTube is all about, I'll say the word censorship. YouTube is all into censorship still, so I can't really say quite as much as I would like to. But I do think that there's something more to this than what we're being told. It's fun. I mean, it's what's ironic is that that's becoming the norm. Is oftentimes there's more to a story than what we're being told, and it's starting to become easier to discern that as much as that. So what I want to do next is go to ATC recordings, so the air traffic control recordings. This is going to be, as I understand it, a dedicated frequency that was used to communicate to and from the Black Hawk helicopter. And this is what was being said. I'm going to put it up on screen and try to give you an opportunity to listen to some of this. But they did a part one. This is VAS Aviation YouTube channel, by the way. They're pretty good with visuals and giving you those recordings. Now, this is a bit busy to look at, so I'll try to describe what you're seeing here. Basically, to start with, this is the sort of what is on radar, if you will, for the DCA vicinity, the vicinity of DCA Airport. You have American Eagle. Its ident is JIA 5342, and you'll see another JIA airplane that's further ahead of it, 5307. That's pretty much irrelevant to the scope of this, but that's just on there, so I'll describe that. At the start of this, you'll note further up on the image, again, it may be a little hard to see at home, so I'll describe it as PAT-25. It's basically approaching from, it looks like from almost right near the National Mall vicinity, pretty much over the Potomac River itself also. Let me go ahead and play this forward for you, and so you can hear what was being discussed with ATC and the helicopter, because I think it's quite telling on some parts of this.
Concept Stone Park, good day. Have a good day. American 3130, slow to final. Well, American 3130.
So this is, I'll just add, ATC at the start of this is telling Flight 5342 to slow down. That's not an unusual request. It's very common for airports to request a plane to slow down, maintain a maximum speed, because there could be varying reasons. Maintain vertical, horizontal separation from another plane, or to basically reduce sound on the basically houses below, things like that. But that's a very, very routine request by ATC, so I take no alarm to that whatsoever.
Okay, 25, traffic just off the Wilson Bridge to CRJ at 1,200 feet, start from runway 33. That has a traffic site request visual separation. It's difference proof.
Okay, so that exchange right there, I'll describe, that was basically the helicopter communicating with ATC. ATC communicates with helicopter, and helicopter communicates back and forth. And basically, ATC starts by alerting the helicopter of traffic. That's, again, routine, so far routine. And basically tells them they're just south of the Woodrow Bridge, a CRJ. It's 1,200 feet, setting up for runway 33. And then basically an acknowledgement from the helicopter, requests visual separation. Visual separation approved, replies DCA Tower. Now, the thing that kind of gets me a little bit, now, visual approach, instrument approach are basically the two separate types of aircraft approach protocols. So I'm oversimplifying, and I don't pretend to know all the nuances of it, but for visual approach, it's literally what it sounds like. In clear weather, decent weather, which is what we had here last night in the Washington, D.C., up in the Washington, D.C. area, basically it's routine. Most planes, most of the time, if they can see the runway, they're going to go with visual approach. They can use the instrumentation at the end of the runway if needed for an IFR approach, but in this case, it's a VFR approach. And basically here, yeah, you've got a situation where the helicopter is going to basically maintain visual literally maintaining, eye contact to the airplane to maintain that separation. Obviously, that didn't turn out so well, did it?
American 1630 Tower, runway 1 left void, traffic through Alpha, runway 33, dispatch 16 off funnel. Left void, runway 1. Whiskey 5307, keep rolling out to November, ground 47 today. American 1630 to Windstar 320 to 14, Gulf 25, traffic 2 mile left base, runway 33, no delay, runway 1 clear for immediate takeoff. Number 1, clear for takeoff, American 1630.
So let me pause it right there. There's one thing I'll point out right there. Again, this is not this is not an oddity really. This is very routine. Basically, when you have a busy airspace, if you have an airplane on final approach to the same runway, it is not uncommon for ATC to go ahead and grant a plane's, a flight to depart. But as you heard, or if you didn't catch it, I'll tell you, it was told cleared for immediate takeoff. That means, basically, you go full thrust, don't delay. You can't diddle doddle, none of that. You don't have time for that. You have just enough time to get to speed, V1, rotate, get off the ground, get airborne. So that is, again, routine. I'm just saying all this because some people might not know whether that's routine or not, because, cleared for immediate takeoff sounds almost a bit ominous, but that is actually very, very routine, especially in busy, crowded airspace like at the DC area.
Runway 1 clear for immediate takeoff. Number 1, clear for takeoff, American 1630. Pass 25, get the CRJ in flight.
Okay, so I don't have exactly... I have a video I'm going to show you all in a minute of what could have been on the air traffic control screen, but all I can tell you is that basically it seems like ATC was alerted by their system that there's an imminent incursion threat, we'll call it that. And in fact, that's what the subtitles down there says, to DCA Tower, conflict alert warning. So let me advance it forward.
Pass 25, get the CRJ in flight.
All right, so there we go. We have, for the first time, a direct... Well, they were talking to the helicopter before about this aircraft. This is the first time where it seems to be becoming a little more amped up, the situation. Pat 25, I'm quoting what Tower said. Pat 25, do you have the CRJ in sight? So that's what Tower is asking to the helicopter over frequency.
CRJ in flight. Pass 25, pass behind the CRJ.
So I don't know if that is routine. ATC basically is requesting them to pass behind the aircraft. That seems a little bizarre to me, but then again, I don't know if that bit is routine or not, but that seems kind of odd to me. I'll just say that much.
This club has an aircraft inside precision separation.
Okay, so that is another thing that they're getting close at this point. So Pat 25, the helicopter says, Pat 25 has the aircraft in sight, requests visual separation.
Separation.
And Tower approves it. They're about to come together now.
American 4782 by Pat, now for visual. American 472, Washington, 1 star, 32017.
And you can hear the Tower, while there's another exchange going on with another aircraft, you can obviously hear the gasp in the Tower as they realize something terrible is taking place. And it looks like an American 472 says, "Oh, they just went." So that's the first acknowledgement by anybody, namely speaking, at least, that something has happened other than just pure reaction.
Did you see that? American 472. American 3130, go around, turn left in 250, climb maintain 3000.
So at this point, there begins a flurry of, the Tower realizing, we're going to have to divert all these aircraft that are behind, all this. Because, you got, I know in Charlotte, where I used to live, it was very common to actually see a whole line of aircraft for several miles on final lineup for approach to one of the busy CLT runways. And so that could have been what was going on here. They're going to have to start telling people, climb, maintain, turn left, whatever, basically. But obviously a chaotic situation. And I just thought I would include that because that information has emerged with respect to the ATC recording. Now, last night, I was reporting that this helicopter was thought to be possibly carrying a VIP interest. That information has not materialized yet. And as of now, it's been, many hours. I mean, it's 4:36 p.m. Eastern Time, and I am not hearing anything concrete about that. What I can tell you, though, is some other information that can be confirmed that was not known last night. And this is on the American Eagle plane. Let me go to that now. So this is what the ex-account for U.S. Figure Skating said, and I quote, U.S. Figure Skating can confirm that several members of our skating community were sadly on board American Airlines Flight 5342, which collided with a helicopter yesterday evening in Washington, D.C. These athletes, coaches, and family members were returning home from the National Development Camp held in conjunction with the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita, Kansas. We are devastated by this unspeakable tragedy and hold the victims' families closely in our hearts. We will continue to monitor the situation and will release more information as it becomes available. So this is what the U.S. Figure Skating entity said. And so now we know that there was certain members of that involved in this. So let me go next to something that I think is quite interesting, actually. And I know Rob Dew from we'll call it, since it's YouTube, the IW outlet. I have to be cautious on certain words because it is YouTube, but this is a very interesting bit of video that was not known, to me at least, until I got off the air last night. This is what is allegedly what air traffic control could have seen at the moment before and moment of impact. And the reason I say it that way is basically, first of all, this looks like what you would see on air traffic control radar screens. And it was apparently, the origin of it is anonymous. So someone recorded this and sent it anonymously. And that's what it appears to be, at least. But I'm going to take this full if I can, at least make it bigger. There we go. And I'm going to play this out, and I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of context here. So here we go. And you can see the PAT 25, the JIA, which is to say basically PSA or American Eagle 5342. And you can see, let me mute this, and then I'll kind of give you a little bit of a descriptor here as we go. So at this moment, let me pause it with it appearing. So for several seconds before the collision, and I think that pertains probably to what was heard on the ATC recording, you see a collision alert appearing above the idents for both aircraft, and you can see clearly in the CA font, and that is telling air traffic control. Someone describes it this way. This is what it's described. I'm just going to read it directly off of here. It says, "This alert is not for an imminent collision, but serves as a tool to draw heightened attention from the controllers to potential risks. The footage then captures the critical moment when both aircraft collided, emphasizing the urgency of the controller's split-second decisions. The radar data provides a detailed view of the events leading up to the crash, offering valuable insight into the sequence of actions and how the situation ultimately unfolded." So let's play this forward. And this is what could have been seen by those in the tower. And so someone claimed for 25 seconds this was appearing on screen. I don't know for certain. I'm going off of what Rob Deuce said there, for 25 seconds. And then you can see literally right together. And then it seems like the CRJ might have emerged slightly past it. And then no update. So, and that reminds me of FlightAware when I was talking to you last night about the actual flight trajectory of the CRJ aircraft, this CRJ 700 American Eagle plane. Basically, at 400 feet, there's nothing else. There's no other returns uploaded to FlightAware. And so that makes me think that the impact was so catastrophic that before the plane had even hit the water, basically, I'm imagining things like hydraulics got severed, the data, probably the data from the cockpit all the way back to something like the voice, cockpit voice recorders, the transponders, all that got probably severed or severely impacted. So that may explain why there's no, except maybe that one single blip past the helicopter before there's no other returns. So that makes me think there was a breakup in midair. But I can't be certain about that. But that's just that's my own speculation on what little is known about it. So this is something that is pretty controversial, and this is what I'm going to go to next. President Trump earlier today held a press conference in the White House press briefing room, and he talked about DEI, or diversity, equity, inclusion, I think it is, and basically he's calling attention to that situation, and I think it's kind of interesting he's saying this. And some people are saying it's all politics, but I just want to play this because this is an interesting thing that was said in general, why he was bringing this up.
It's all under investigation. I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the highest level. When you have 60 planes coming in during a short period of time, and they're all coming in different directions, and you're dealing with very high-level computer work and very complex computers. And one of the other things I will tell you is that the systems that were built, I was going to rebuild the entire system, and then we had an election that didn't turn out the way it should have. But they didn't build the systems properly. They spent a lot of money renovating a system, spending much more money than they would have spent if they bought a new system for air traffic controllers, meaning the computerized systems. There are certain companies that do a very good job. They didn't use those companies. They used companies that should not have been doing it. No, I think it's very important to understand that for some jobs, and not only this, but air traffic controllers, they have to be at the highest level of genius. Okay.
So that was what Trump had to say, and it makes you wonder. It's not known yet. And I'm going to word this carefully, but the people in the tower, were they even qualified? Because how can you know this was happening, and all you tell the helicopter, do you have the airplane in sight? Pass behind the aircraft. I mean, for example, what comes to my mind is, at the least, tell the helicopter the trajectory the airplane is on. Why wasn't that said? The plane is making a left turn or I don't know. Did they say it? I have to go back and look. But to me, the whole exchange there, especially with the passing behind the aircraft, it's really just bizarre to me. But then again, I'm not an air traffic controller. I haven't been trained to do that. So what do I know? I'm just asking the questions here anyway. That's my job, is to ask questions. Let me go to something else that I want to bring to your attention. And I think this is the most bizarre thing in my mind. As I said last night, thankfully Pete Hegseth was not on the helicopter it was said that there were 3 soldiers on the helicopter. So it's entirely possible that on the helicopter part we didn't have a VIP person, because that has not firmed up. We haven't materialized any evidence to that effect. But what is bizarre to me is the initial reports that were coming out about the aircraft and what is being alleged it's used for. So it is a U.S. Army helicopter, Black Hawk helicopter. But let me go to something that SecDef Pete Hegseth said, because I think that this is quite, I don't know if I'd call it a bombshell, but maybe you've seen it by now if you've been paying attention to the news today, but check this out.
Staff Sergeant and CW2 Chief Warrant Officer on a routine annual retraining of night flights on a standard corridor for a continuity of government mission. The military does dangerous things. It does routine things.
So that phrase, continuity of government mission, is really bizarre to me. Like, what is that all about? Was this just a drill? I mean, continuity of government, what are you practicing for? A COG, situation, a continuity of government? Like, is that just truly a drill, or is there something else going on that we don't know about? That is something that I found quite interesting and got my attention when I came across that. And another ex-poster said this, basically highlighting that fact also. Breaking, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth revealed that the military chopper involved in the Washington, D.C. crash with an airplane was on a, quote, continuity of government, unquote, mission. So, very interesting there, and it makes me wonder what else is going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. The next thing I'm going to show you, get ready. Now, this is going to blow your mind, okay? So, I know that there's been some word about whether this helicopter was actually manned or not. What is being reported was that there were 3 soldiers on the helicopter, but I'm going to share something here in a second that's going to question everything. And I'm not sharing a hand-me-down information. I went straight to the source on this one. It's not hard to find, by the way. And it probably will be pulled before long once more people start catching on to this. This is from Lockheed Martin's website. 321. Let me show you what this says. This is not, like I said, this is not a Photoshop. This is their website. Lockheed Martin's website. Dated October 17. That's a number we see a lot, don't we? 2024. Command an autonomous Black Hawk helicopter from 300 miles away. How do you command a Black Hawk helicopter to perform a mission autonomously from 300 miles or 480 kilometers away? Quite simply, by using a tablet connected to the aircraft via data link. So, I'm just giving that to y'all to consider. It may not be anything related, but I told y'all last night that I had the gut feeling to say it, but I didn't come on to talk about it. But a day or two leading up to this, I was getting a very strong sense that this is YouTube, but an FF event, I was getting a very strong sense that was imminent. And it was not just a gut feeling. All the signs, like, I don't pretend to discern everything. I'm not saying that, folks. I'm just saying that in my gut, something was off here, and that something was. I just felt like that we were building up to something, and with the drills in New York City, I don't know if you've heard about that, but there was, we'll call it a firecracker, okay, substituting the other word, drill, in New York City. Things that go boom. Think Manhattan Project kind of thing, kind of level stuff. In New York City, there was apparently some kind of drill. I don't know a lot about that, but I just thought seeing that, like, man, something's not right here. And then, of course, in recent months, we've had the drones and all this chaos in the first days of the Trump second admin, and the deep state just being. And I'll say this: the deep state, in my mind, was way too quiet. And to me, that was a red flag. And knowing what happened on New Year's Day in New Orleans and I believe Las Vegas, you could just see the writings on the wall, and to me it was just something was up. And I was feeling it even yesterday before all this went down. So let me, just before I sign off, here's one more thing that I'm going to share with you. This is from X, and by the way, just because I share someone's what they're posting on X, it does not mean I expressly endorse everything they say on other things. I'm just simply saying, consider this kind of thing. You know, just take this as food for thought. Okay, we're just taking all the pieces from here and over here. You know, we're just trying to bring it together and see what is credible, what isn't. You know, what do we have here, basically. So let me go to this now. Let me see if I can take it in full.
You have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. You then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the highest level. When you have 60 planes coming in during a short period of time, and they're all coming in different directions, and you're dealing with very high-level computer work and very complex computers. And one of the other things I will tell you is that the systems that were built, I was going to rebuild the entire system, and then we had an election that didn't turn out the way it should have. But they didn't build.
I'm going to stop it right there and go ahead and just give you what I think is going on here. This guy said something here that caught my attention, and that is, Donald Trump told you all today that this is a chess game being played at the highest levels. Who has to make the final move in order for there to be, it should be THERE, but anyways, for there to be a checkmate? Hint, it's not the white hats. So, in other words, let me rephrase that in a way that's YouTube friendly, of course. Is this all in a certain degree of allowance for certain people to do certain things so that, you can't arrest people until they've committed the crime? And I wish I could say what I really want to say. But I showed you the Lockheed Martin one. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway of all from today. I'm curious to see what y'all think about this. Are we onto something here about this Lockheed Martin thing? It's not much to it, but there is an acknowledgement from Lockheed Martin that there is a way to remote control Black Hawk helicopters. So maybe not. Maybe that's not what happened here, but I'm just, and they were talking to somebody on air traffic control. It could have been the pilot. Who knows? I mean, it could all just been a pure tragedy. But like I said, it's my job to ask the questions, because the mainstream media will not ask these questions. They will not put forward these questions, and that's shows like mine. That's my job, is to fill that gap. I don't cover everything all the time, obviously, but I try to cover some things, and where necessary, ask those questions. It's important to ask questions, because that's the freedom of the press. And the freedom of the press is not the mainstream media. It is you and me. Every American citizen has a role to play in the freedom of the press. We all, as citizens, form the press, strictly speaking, if you exercise that right. That is why we call this the Citizen Report. We're not the mainstream media. So just because I bring these questions up, it doesn't mean that is what's going on here. I'm just asking the questions. So my apologies at the beginning of the broadcast. I thought I had things lined up, and then I realized I didn't even have the browser settings set right. So I know that was kind of goofy at first, but anyways, I guess it all kind of came together in the end. But thanks for sticking with it, and hopefully you got something from this broadcast. And as I said last night, I don't want to ever project spirit of fear, because God has not given us a spirit of fear. He's given us a spirit that is of power, love, and of sound mind. And we have the power of life and death in the tongue. And I choose to speak life. So I want to be cautious as I close to just say that as a Christian, I just want, there's no reason to have fear because we're under God's protection. Everything that ever happens is whether God allowed it or not. Sometimes we don't understand it. Believe me, I've been through a lot this last few years, and sometimes I wish I could tell you why did this happen? Why did that happen? But God has a reason for everything. And so as I get older, I realize that God protects us. And like I said last night, it's kind of like when I get on an airplane, I don't always live up to this standard of thinkingness, but I like to think of it this way. When I get on an airplane, Jesus is also getting on the airplane, and therefore that plane is going to make it to its final destination. And so, we don't operate with a spirit of fear. And, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of falling into the trap of the spirit of fear, but God has not given us that. So we can take authority in the name of Jesus. So that's it for me, folks. And if you like what I do, please consider subscribing, especially to my Rumble channel, keyword The Citizen Report. Like I said earlier, for the time being, I know it's kind of odd that I'm doing it this way, but live streaming will have to be done through YouTube. I'm going to try to see if X is a possibility. It looks like it might be, but I know with Facebook, my follower count, I should say, on the Citizen Report page is not enough yet. I think I have to have 100 followers to even live stream there. That would probably be where I would do the live shows for the time being. Rumble, they charge just to get to that level. And so, folks, hopefully you understand why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. But I'm also trying to get more into the groove of doing live shows. I'm not sure if that is going to become the standard for how I produce the show, but the flagship place to go for the Citizen Report is rumble.com. And you can, like I said, keyword search The Citizen Report, and you can come to the website. Let me put the thing up on screen real quick. There at the bottom, thecitizenreport.net is where you should go. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for watching the Citizen Report, everyone. And by the grace of God, I will see you back here again next time.